Ever feel like you're your own worst obstacle?
Oh, definitely.
You see the path forward, you know what you need to do, and then whoops,
Yeah.
somehow you've managed to like tie your own shoelaces together.
Right. It happens.
It's a classic human experience, isn't it? And what if those moments, those self-sabotage moments, aren't just random clumsiness?
Yeah.
What if they're actually little breadcrumbs leading back to some surprisingly deep-seated, often unconscious fears and beliefs that have, long overstayed their welcome?
Exactly. And we're not just here to like point fingers at those frustrating habits. Our mission today is to really dig into the why.
The why behind it all.
Yeah, the why behind those self-defeating patterns. We're going to explore how these hidden drivers, those irrational fears maybe, and those negative associations lurking in the shadows of our minds actually influence what we do.
And how we feel, presumably.
And how we feel, absolutely.
Mhm.
Hopefully we can connect some dots for you listening and maybe even trigger a few of those, aha moments.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. So let's start with this idea of irrational fear. It sounds a bit intense, maybe.
A little, perhaps.
But when you think about it, so much of what trips us up can be traced back to these really old, unexamined fears we have about ourselves, about the world.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the common underlying fears you see manifesting as self-sabotage?
That's a great way to frame it. Often it boils down to core anxieties around not being good enough. That's a big one.
Right, the classic imposter syndrome kind of
Yeah.
feeling.
Or, the vulnerability of putting ourselves out there and potentially facing failure. Or even a fear of genuine connection, intimacy.
Wow, okay, so those can be really powerful forces operating beneath the surface.
Absolutely. Huge forces.
It's like the real monster under the bed is actually a fear of, I don't know, not being accepted or something.
That's a good analogy.
And what's interesting is how these fears don't always show up looking like fears, right? They disguise themselves.
Precisely. Our minds are clever. Instead of directly grappling with that core fear, the scary one, we find these seemingly less threatening outlets.
Like what?
Well, we might develop a fear of something abstract, like just being caught doing something wrong, even if we haven't.
Okay, yeah, that vague anxiety.
Right. Or a hypervigilance around boundaries being crossed. Or even just a persistent worry about, I don't know, unlikely negative events happening.
Ah, the catastrophizing.
Exactly. It's as if these abstract fears become a kind of decoy. They distract us from the real, more uncomfortable issues. It's the mental equivalent of focusing on a tiny dust bunny while ignoring the elephant in the room.
Huh.
Okay?
Right. It's like our brains are thinking, okay, that real fear, nope, way too scary. Let's obsessively worry about whether we left the stove on, even though we checked it 3 times.
In there.
It's almost a relief in a weird way to worry about something with a low probability, isn't it? It gives us a place to channel that anxiety.
Without actually having to face the music. Yeah.
Exactly.
Take someone with a deep-seated fear of losing control, for instance.
Yeah.
That might not manifest as a direct fear of being powerless in their relationships, maybe. Instead, it could show up as an intense fear of being a passenger in a car.
Oh, interesting. Why the car?
Well, the car, in that instance, becomes a tangible symbol of relinquishing control. Someone else is dictating the direction.
Right. You're not steering.
You're not steering. Or, as we were just saying, it could even represent a fear of the unknown that comes with moving forward in life, generally.
That makes
And
sense.
surface-level fear is just the tip of a much larger iceberg.
That really clicks. And it explains why just trying to, force ourselves past the surface level anxiety often feels like running headfirst into a brick wall. We might try to grit our teeth and push through, but if we haven't dealt with what's underneath, it's like trying to bail water out of a sinking ship with a teacup.
Exactly. Pretty futile.
There was a great line about this, something like, if you try to fix the problem on the surface, you will always come up against a wall.
Yeah, I remember that.
This is because you're trying to rip off a Band-Aid before you have a strategy to heal the wound.
That analogy really hits the nail on the head. It underscores that crucial point. Lasting change comes from understanding and addressing the root cause.
Right, not just the symptom.
Not just the symptom. Without that deeper exploration, those self-sabotaging patterns are likely to stick around, no matter how much willpower we try to exert on the surface.
Okay, so fear is one big piece. Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about these unconscious negative associations and our internal narratives.
Okay, it's the stories we tell ourselves.
Exactly. It's like we all have this little voice in our head constantly telling us a story about who we are and what we deserve. And sometimes that story is Well, it's a total work of fiction and not the good kind.
Precisely. Self-sabotage can be like a flashing neon sign saying, hey, your internal storybook is outdated, or just plain wrong.
Uh-huh. Needs an update.
Definitely needs an update. Our self-concept, as we've touched on, is kind of a patchwork quilt. It's woven from past experiences, what our parents maybe inadvertently projected onto us.
Sure. Stuff we picked up without realizing.
Exactly. The opinions of our peers and so on. And our brains, ever the efficient pattern recognition machines, have this tendency called confirmation bias.
Right. They look for proof of what they already believe.
Yes, they actively seek out information that confirms our existing beliefs, even if those beliefs are holding us back. It was put so well. Your life is defined not only by what you think about it, but also what you think of yourself.
That's powerful. And this is where things get really interesting and maybe a little bit uncomfortable. Because if we've unconsciously linked achieving a goal with something negative about our self-image, we're practically setting ourselves up to fail.
It's like an internal conflict.
Totally. Think about wanting to, say, finally get your finances in order, achieve some stability.
Okay, a common goal.
But maybe somewhere along the line, maybe in childhood, you picked up the idea that, I don't know, rich people are greedy or money corrupts.
Right, those kinds of messages.
Even if you consciously want financial stability, there's this underlying unconscious resistance to becoming wealthy because you don't want to be that kind of person. It's like your brain is saying, nope, danger, that's not who we are.
Exactly. That anxiety we feel swirling around a particular goal can often be a signal flare. It indicates the presence of these limiting beliefs lurking beneath the surface.
So the anxiety isn't necessarily about the goal itself, but about what achieving the goal means according to our hidden beliefs.
Often, yes. And it's not just about health or finances, like in your examples. Maybe you subconsciously associate being successful in your career with losing close friendships. Maybe you saw that happen to someone or heard a story.
Okay.
Or perhaps you believe, deep down, that you only deserve love and attention when you're struggling. So you inadvertently create drama in your relationships to get that need met.
Wow, that's subtle.
It's very subtle. It's like we're following an old, glitchy computer program without even realizing it's running.
It's almost darkly comical how creative we can be in finding ways to undermine our own happiness, isn't it?
We can be quite inventive.
You might finally land that dream job and then suddenly you're chronically late, or you start picking fights with your colleagues. It's like your brain is screaming, wait a minute, this feels too good. Something must be wrong.
A very human tendency. And that brings us to the crucial turning point. Recognizing and actively questioning these warped and illogical pre-existing beliefs.
Shining a light on them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Shining a light on those dusty old narratives and realizing that, as we've discussed, they are distinctly holding us back from reaching our full potential.
So going back to the healthy people are vain example,
Yeah.
it's about challenging that assumption. Is it universally true? Of course not.
Probably not. No.
You can absolutely prioritize your well-being without being self-obsessed. It's about reframing the idea maybe being healthy actually increases your capacity to care for others, gives you more energy.
That's a great reframe. Or with the career, success, and friendships example, questioning whether success automatically means isolation.
Right. Maybe it opens up new opportunities to connect with people on a different level. Or allows you to be more generous.
Precisely. It's about consciously choosing new, more empowering beliefs to replace the old, limiting ones.
Okay.
Showing ourselves, as was mentioned in the material, that there are healthier ways to cope with stress than resorting to old comfort habits, like maybe comfort food used to soothe something deeper.
Sure. Or finding better ways to connect.
Right. Finding more fulfilling ways to connect with others than through shared negativity or conflict, which can sometimes become a habit.
Yeah, that's a trap too. And it's when we really start to examine those deeply ingrained beliefs, when we hold them up to the light and ask, is this actually true? Is this serving me? That's when things start to shift, isn't it?
That's the key.
It's like Dorothy pulling back the curtain in Oz and realizing the wizard wasn't so powerful after all, just some old beliefs pulling levers.
Exactly. That act of questioning is incredibly liberating. It allows us to see that those self-imposed limitations were often based on faulty assumptions or, outdated information.
Things we learn that just aren't true anymore, or maybe never were.
Exactly. And that realization is the first step towards unlocking our true potential.
Let's circle back quickly to some of those really insightful quotes that capture these ideas so well. The first one. Sometimes our most sabotaging behaviors are really the result of long-held and unexamined fears we have about the world and ourselves.
That sets the stage perfectly.
It really does. It immediately directs our attention to the hidden emotional roots, doesn't it?
It does. And then there's your life is defined not only by what you think about it, but also what you think of yourself.
Yeah, that one really underscores the power of our self-perception.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that our internal landscape plays a massive role in shaping our external reality. What we believe about ourselves matters a lot.
And the Band-Aid analogy is just so spot on. If you try to fix the problem on the surface, you will always come up against a wall.
So vivid.
It's a vivid and memorable way to illustrate why addressing the underlying issues, the wound, not just the Band-Aid, is absolutely crucial for any lasting change.
Couldn't agree more. And finally, this quote offers such a sense of hope and agency, I think. Once you begin to really question and observe these pre-existing beliefs, you begin to see how warped and illogical they were all along, not to mention distinctly holding you back from your ultimate potential.
Yeah, that warped and illogical part really resonates.
It's that moment of clarity, realizing we have the power to rewrite our own stories. It's not set in stone.
So, okay, for you listening, what are the key takeaways as we wrap up this cover to cover? Hopefully you're seeing that those frustrating moments when you feel like you're getting in your own way, they aren't just random.
Right, there's signals.
More often than not, they're tied to these deeply ingrained, often unconscious fears we carry around, and those limiting beliefs we've absorbed over time about ourselves and the world.
And the really empowering message here, I think, is that you don't have to remain stuck in those patterns. It's
Yeah.
not a life sentence.
Definitely not.
The key to breaking free from self-sabotage lies in becoming like a detective of your own inner world.
I like that. A self-detective.
Yeah. Identifying and addressing those underlying irrational fears and actively challenging those negative self-perceptions.
And by consciously questioning those old, warped beliefs, like we talked about, and choosing to adopt new, more supportive ones, that's how you really start to clear the path towards your goals and unlock the incredible potential that's probably been waiting within you all along.
Well said. So this brings up maybe a fascinating question for you to ponder as you go about your day.
Okay, leave us with a thought.
What's one seemingly harmless habit or maybe a worry that you find yourself clinging to? Could it actually be a clever way your mind is avoiding a deeper, perhaps more significant fear?
Ooh, that's a good one. What safe worry might be protecting you from a scarier truth?
Exactly. Just some food for thought.